that was okay. Should I turn this off?
If you like the Microtonic, you should buy your copy.
Hello and welcome to Hack Attack. My name is Jakob Hack, I'm your host, and you're watching a Hack Attack interview. This time I've interviewed Magnus Lidström from Sonic Charge. He's giving us the background story of the BitSpeak plugin effect for PC and Mac, and how that same plugin is related to the PO35 Speak. So just a short introduction before we start. As you've guessed by now, this is Magnus Lidström. He's a software developer and he's responsible for a whole slew of popular plugins like Synthplant, Permutate and Microtonic, all available to PC and Mac users. Now, if you didn't already know, then Magnus is also the guy who took Microtonic and made it work inside the Teenage Engineering PO32 Tonic. And now he's done it again with PO35 Speak. Only this isn't a drum machine like PO32. No, this time it's a voice synth pocket operator, and it's based upon another one of his popular plugins, namely BitSpeak. So what is BitSpeak exactly, and how is it related to the PO35 Speak?
It's based on a little algorithm that I made for my Microtonic software. It's for the voices that reminds you to buy my software. So before you bought it in the trial version, it kept on nagging you that you should consider buying your copy of the Microtonic. And I didn't want to use my own voice because that just feels wrong. So I wanted Microtonic to speak for himself. So then I had to develop this voice sound, this voice algorithm. And I had the Speak and Spell when I was a kid. And I loved that sound. So I wanted to have that sound. So I researched on the Speak and Spell and the circuits in there and made a little replica of that speech circuit. And then it turned up in recordings. People liked that sound. So they sampled the nagging of Microtonic and put that on records. And they started asking me about this algorithm. What is it? How can I get it? How can I have the same?
You should consider registering the Microtonic.
Eventually, I think when we released Microtonic version 3, I made a little effect, a separate product called BitSpeak that had this algorithm running in real time as an audio effect. And that was the first time, I think, that someone made an effect based on this linear prediction coding algorithm. Technology that comes from telephone systems in the beginning. And it's the same technology that we have in GSM telephone.
Now, personally, I find it fascinating how it all got started with a trial version of Microtonic, but it also made me wonder how similar BitSpeak and PO35 really are. Are they basically the same thing?
Nope, they're not. I mean, to start with, the VST is an effect, and this is a synthesizer. The VST version, the BitSpeak VST, the effect, it takes audio in, and in real time, analysis and synthesis of this audio. So in real time, you change your voice or whatever to this robot computer speaking character. As this wasn't, to begin with, possible CPU-wise, not with decent audio quality anyway, on the PO35, on the pocket operator, I decided that you should be able to record, sample your voice instead into memory. So functionality-wise, it's more like a sampler. Sound-wise, it sounds like the BitSpeak effect, but you sample something into it and then you play with it, and you can play the voice that you recorded, you can play that with different pitches, and you can change like the timing and everything. Of course, you can't change the timing with a real-time effect. It's, one-to-one time-wise, but on the PO35, you can change the speed all the way down to, full stop, and you can scrub it and sweep you know, your voice backwards and forwards, stuff like that. That's not possible with effects. So for me, I think the PO35 is a lot more fun actually than the VST effect.
You should consider registering the microtonic.
After that very promptly interruption, I asked Magnus about the actual PO35 development process. In particular, what he found was the hardest thing to accomplish, and this is what he said.
This time, I didn't have to make an exact replica of something. It didn't have to sound exactly the same. With the PO32, I had the microtonic and I wanted to be able to transfer sounds to the Pocket Operator. So I had to make a new engine for the Pocket Operator CPU that sounded identical. That was terrible. That took so much time, so much effort to get that working. But this time I didn't really, you know, with the PO35, I didn't have that restriction. The hardest thing, your question, the hardest thing to do when implementing this was actually the recording. Because when you record something on the PO35, it has, it's a quite intensive analysis, quite intensive, CPU-intensive algorithm to analyze the formants and the pitch and everything of your voice. And I really wanted to have that as like a real-time recording function. I wanted people to be able to record something and then hear it immediately how it sounded. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough CPU to do a real-time effect at all. Like doing the analysis and the synthesis on the same CPU at the same time was just not possible. So I introduced some new sounds, some new characters, and some new algorithms into it. Just made it sound, you know, a little bit different, and also with techniques that were more fitting for the smaller CPU. Code that's like completely different from the VST version, just as with Microtonic and PO32. But you know, this time it sounds a bit different as well.
Now, PO35 speak might sound different from bit speak and vice versa, but I think we can all agree that they both sound pretty awesome.
That was okay. Should I turn this off?
If you like the microtonic, you should buy your copy.
Thank you so much, Magnus Lidström, for doing this interview, and thank you so much, viewers, for watching. If you check the description, you'll find a link to my huge PO35 Speak All You Need to Know video. It features a complete review and tutorial and guide to all of the new functions and commands found inside the PO35. And you'll also be able to find links to Sonic Charge so you can check out all of the great plugins that Magnus has made. I would also like to ask you to just take a moment to at least consider helping in securing the future for this channel by joining up on Patreon, as many of my awesome patrons already have. Is that a weird sentence? It's kind of a long sentence, isn't it? By doing so, you'll be actively supporting creativity and good content here on YouTube. Good content. Yeah, I do realize that's a very subjective thing, whether something is good or not. If Patreon isn't your cup of tea, then I've also got a PayPal me link, so you could do a one-off donation if you'd rather do that. And if you don't want to do the Patreon, or it's not Patreon, it's Patreon. If you don't want to do either Patreon or PayPal, then you can always share my videos, press the thumbs up, because that helps a lot with the ratings around here. And if you subscribe, then why not also activate that little bell thing at the same time, because that way you'll always get notified whenever I upload a new video. So, as usual, I wish you a very productive week. Now go finger all of your stuff and have a lot of fun doing it.